Hello. So I had been doing a series of videos on games I owned that I had never played, and I got through all those, and so I've moved on to doing a series of videos of games I've owned that I've only played once. This game here, Conquest of the Empire, I believe it's from 2005. I didn't buy it till 2012. I think I got it on Amazon for like $25, pretty cheap. Not sure if you can find it that cheap anymore, possibly. Um, anyway, I think I played it once in 2013, and this game actually comes with two versions. At least the 2005 printing of it does. It comes with the classic version, which I think was a reprint of the game from 1984, and then it comes with the Conquest of the Empires 2 version, which has a lot more detail and, I don't want to say complexity, but it's got a lot more. It's got a lot more than what the classic game has. Now, when I played back in 2013, I played the Conquest of the Empires 2 version. I'm going to do this video on just the basic Conquest of the Empires version, and so in a sense I will be playing a game I haven't played before because I haven't played this version of it. And then maybe I'll go ahead and do another separate video on the Conquest of the Empires 2 version, just so you can see the differences, but I'll see if I want to do that or not. Anyway, let me kind of back up here. You can see this has a huge board. It doesn't even really fit on my game table very well. Well, this is my solo game table. I have another half of it when I'm playing with other people, so it becomes twice the size. But anyway, for a solo experience, normally I have room down here to place my individual players, sheets and figures and whatnot, but I don't have room for that now, so I guess I'll just have to put the things that are not currently on the board, I'll have to put them over to the side. But anyway, let's get on to setup. Setup is pretty easy. Each player will pick a home province. In a 3-player game, you can only have your home provinces are Hispania, Macedonia, and Egyptus. And then each player will put their Caesar figure, 4 leader figures or generals, 5 infantry figures, and 1 fortified city. So a city that's not fortified just doesn't have these walls. That's a regular city. And then if it's fortified, it goes with these walls. And they don't stay in the fortification very well. Anyway, so each player will do that, so I've done that for my Macedonia player, my Hispania player, and my Egyptus player. And for this classic version, that's it for setup, so that's pretty good. So let's get on with how we play. And one more piece of setup I forgot. You put one of your control markers, each player puts one of their control markers on the 15 spot of the tribute scale. That's what this scale here is. Alright, once you're all set up, the players will take turns in order, starting with whoever the Macedonia player is. Then if you had a Galatia player, they would be next, followed by Mesopotamia, and so forth around the board clockwise, but Macedonia is always first. And my next players, since I don't have a Galatia or Mesopotamia, my next player will be the Egyptus player, and the third player will be the Hispania player, since I'm only playing 3 players. So you start with Macedonian. So on your turn, you go in a sequence of play starting with movement. So to move, you have to form a legion, and that has to include at least one leader, which can be one of your generals or your Caesar. Where is my Caesar here? Here he is. Alright, so either one of your generals or your Caesar. Those are your leaders. So you can form a legion of up to 7 land combat units. Now, at the beginning, you just start with 5 infantry. So those are your land combat units. They can't move on their own. They have to move with a leader. Now, a leader has 2 movement points. So if they can move on their own. So if they wanted to move 2, they could go 1, 2. But a land combat unit, or an infantry anyway, only has 1 movement point. So just say we wanted to move 3 of these infantry to Thracia. We would have to take a leader with them, so we'd take a general, and then he could move into Thracia with those 3 infantry. Now the leader still has 1 movement point left, so he could move back if he wanted to, or he could move over here to Asia. On the board, if provinces are connected with one of these arrows, then you can move without a galley to that area. That's like a strait, and the land units can just move straight across there. Otherwise, you would need a galley, like say, to come from here over to here, unless you went, of course, the long way around. But we'll get to galleys later. Anyway, so infantry only have 1 movement point. Cavalry does have 2 movement points. Catapults only have 1 movement point. And if we had a galley, they have 2 movement points, but they start out. I got a galley here just to show. So when they're placed, they start out on a coast, so they're on a province but on a coast. Then they can spend 1 movement point to move into a sea zone, and then another movement point to move onto another coast, or to move to another sea zone, like that. So 1 to move into another sea zone, 1 point to move on to a coast. And then land units can be moved onto a ship. So a leader could move, with up to 7 units, land combat units, onto a ship. And that would be their 1 movement point. So then if the ship moved, 1, 2 and landed over here in Neapolis, the land combat units would not have another movement point on that turn with which they could come off the ship. So they would have to wait till their next turn to come off the ship. I don't know why I have this road up here. Let me get that off. So just following our example, we'll just say this general formed a legion with these 2 infantry and moved here. And this general formed a legion with these 2 infantry and moved here. And so you do all your movement, and then that ends your movement phase. Now, if you had moved into a province with enemy soldiers, you would then have combat. If you move into a province without enemy soldiers, then you just immediately take over that province. There's no combat that has to take place. And when you're moving, if you move into a province with enemy units, you have to stop. You can't continue. But if you've done that, then you would have combat. Now galleys, if they move into a space with another enemy galley, they don't have to stop. So they don't have to have combat. They can stop and have combat if they're in the space with an enemy galley, but they don't have to stop like land units do. They can, if they have additional movement, they can just keep moving. And then if this had been, the end of our turn after the combat phase, since no combat took place, we would control these provinces that we've moved into, and they both have the silver coin, so they're worth 5 points. So we would move our tribute marker up 5 points for each one of them. So my tribute would be at 25 for the blue player, since he got 2 additional provinces. And then I think the rules say as long as you have units in there, you don't have to put a control marker in there. If you later moved out, you could put a control marker in there to show that you own that province. I like to go ahead and put one in there even when I have units in there, because then for me it was easier when enemy units move in there and there's a battle. It reminds you that it's actually, who is actually the defending player in that province at that time. But I think the rules state that you only have to put a province control marker in there if you move all your units out. But since the second phase after movement is combat, let's just show an example of how combat works. So if we'll just pretend that the red player had a couple of infantry, a catapult, and his general. So I got a general, couple of cavalry, couple of infantry, and a catapult. And we'll say the blue player, just say he moved in here with 3 infantry. So after he'd finished all his movement, after you've finished all your movement, then you do the combat, and the player whose turn it is decides, where the combat takes place first. If he had combat that's going to take place in multiple provinces. In this example, we just have this province. So first thing you do in a combat is the defender will form a battle legion, and a battle legion can have up to 5 land units and plus 1 additional unit for each leader you have, or general or Caesar. And then any additional units you had, I've only got 5 land units here, so I'll only have 1 battle legion. But if I had a couple of extra units, like if I had 7 units in here, well, only 6 of them could form my battle legion, because I can have up to 5 plus 1 per each leader, and I've only got the 1 general here, so I could only have 6, and the other ones would be in reserve, which they could come in after the first round of battle. If some of my units had got defeated, then I could bring my reserve units in for the second round of battle. But in this, just for this basic example, this is what we have. 5 land units here, and 5 land combat units here, and 3 infantry here. So the defender forms his battle legion, which will be these 2 infantry, 2 cavalry, and a catapult. And then the attacker forms his, and that's just the 3 infantry. Then the attacker rolls 1 dice for each combat unit that he has. And so the combat dice they have a ship, a catapult, 2 infantry, a blank, and a cavalry. So you have more chance of getting infantry than any other result. But you'll roll 1 for each unit. So this attack, he's the attacker if he moved in here, and these units were already here. So he rolls 3 dice, one for each infantry. The leader does not roll one. So we'll roll. Alright, we got an infantry, cavalry, and an infantry. And what you're trying to do is match up to the units you actually have. So this will be a hit because it'll match up to that infantry. This will be a hit because it'll match up to that infantry. But this one will be a miss because I don't have a cavalry. So I would get 2 hits at this point. So the defender then knocks over 2 units of their choice that are going to be killed at the end of this battle. Then now they'll still get to roll for this combat round, but so we'll just say he decides to knock over one of his cavalry and one of his infantry. Now he's going to roll, and he gets 5 dice because that's how many land combat units he has. So there's my 5. All right, he got a cavalry, which will match up to that cavalry that he has. He got a blank, so that's a miss. He got a ship, so that's a miss. He got a catapult, which will match up to the one catapult he has. And he got another ship, so that would be a miss. So he got 2 hits. So now the attacker has to remove 2 units, so he's got to remove these 2, and the defender has to remove the 2 that he got hit. Now, you can decide if you want to retreat. The defender can decide first if he wanted to retreat. And then if the defender decides they don't want to retreat, then the attacker decides if they want to retreat. And you have to be able to retreat into an adjacent province that does not contain any enemy units. So in this case, either one could retreat if they wanted to. If you do decide to retreat, you don't automatically just get to retreat. If you decide to retreat, before you can, the other player that's not retreating gets to roll a dice for each combat unit it has remaining in the battle, and for each cavalry result that they get that they can match up to a cavalry that they have, then you would lose a unit. The retreating force would lose a unit. Now in this case, if the red player decided to retreat, which of course they wouldn't because they're winning, but if they did, there would no point to even do a pursuit roll because the blue player has no cavalry. But if the blue player decided to retreat, then the red player would get to roll 3 dice, one for each combat unit it has left, and if it got a cavalry result, it could match it up to 1 cavalry, so the blue player would lose their remaining infantry, and they would end up losing the retreat, or they would end up losing that infantry. Now if that was the outcome and this infantry was killed in the pursuit roll, the general would still get to retreat. He would escape. However, if during the actual combat all the combat units are destroyed, then your generals and leaders they don't get to try to escape. They are just captured at that point. If your Caesar is captured, you just automatically are out, and the player that won that combat gets to take over all your pieces and gets all your money and so forth. But if they just take your general, capture your general, then they can hold it, and later you may be able to make some kind of bargain with money or trade of one of their generals to get your general back. And in that case, it would just, if you did get it back, it would go into your home province. But let's go back to this battle. Let's say they decided they were going to battle one more time. He wasn't going to retreat. He wasn't going to retreat. So the attacker in this case only gets 1 additional dice, or only gets 1 dice because he has an infantry. So he rolled cavalry, that's a miss. This guy still has 3 land combat units. So he got an infantry, which he can match to one of his infantry. He got another infantry, but he only has 1 infantry, so he can't match that to any infantry. He's already matched 1 with this, so this becomes a miss. And then he got a catapult, which he can match to that. So he would get 2 hits, which would destroy the last remaining infantry, and now he would capture this general and get to keep it and maybe later bargain with it or give it back or just decide it's killed, whatever. So that's movement and combat, and we'll just go back to our example before we had combat. So if this was the beginning of the game and the blue player just did their movement, they moved here and here, and as we showed, they got to move up 5 points on the tribute track for each of those provinces that they captured. 5 for that one, 5 for that one. So now they're at 25, and the next phase is collect tribute. So they would collect 25 tribute. So the gold coins are 10, and the silver is 5. So he would collect 25 tribute and just put it in his play area. Then the next step is destroy cities. So we don't have a good example of that, but if you had a city in a province and you think you're about to lose it, like you still control it, but you know a large force of enemy people are about to come in and take it on their turn, you may want to destroy that city so they don't get to take advantage of it. So the next phase after collecting tribute is destroy cities. So, say I had a city here and I know I'm going to lose it, I destroy it. So whenever you build a city or take over a province with a city, you get 5 extra tribute on the track. So if you destroy a city, of course, you have to remember to reduce your tribute on the tribute track for that. And we didn't talk in combat about fortified cities, but you can have just a regular city. You can buy just a regular city, which is like this, and that doesn't do anything for you in combat. It does give you the 5 extra tribute every turn when you collect tribute. But if you have a fortified city, which you can buy, you start out with 1 in your home province, but you can buy a city alone and then later add a fortification, or you can just buy a fortified city, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But in combat, if you are defending a province with a fortified city, you get to roll 2 extra dice on your roll for the fortified city, unless the attacker has a catapult, and then you only get 1 extra dice on your roll. But all right, so talked about collecting tribute. So then we talked about destroying cities. So then the next thing you do is purchase new pieces. So in this example of this turn, I have 25 tribute I can spend on new pieces. New infantry cost 10. I think they're called talons. No, they're called talents. So the gold is 10 talents, silver is 5 talents. So a new infantry piece costs 10. A new cavalry costs 20. A galley, which is the ship, costs 20. A catapult costs 30. If you're buying a fortified city, it costs 50. If you're just buying a city without a fortification, it costs 30. If you're buying a fortification by itself, so on one turn you'd built a city, and later in a future turn you want to add a fortification to it, that costs 20. And then a road costs 10, which we haven't talked about roads, but I'll do that here in just a minute. So you do you purchase all your new pieces during the purchase, spending as much of your money as you want. And then the last thing you do is place your new pieces. Now, any combat units you place have to be placed in your home province. So if I bought any new infantry, cavalry, catapults, whatever, I have to place them in my home province. If I bought a galley, it has to be placed on the coast of my home province. If you purchase a new city, then you can just put that in any city or any province you control. So like if I bought 2 new cities, I could put one here and one here since I control both of those provinces. Same thing with fortification. Now, let's talk about roads for a minute. Let me set up an example. Okay, so let's say for an example, I owned these 3 provinces and I have a city in each one. Well, if you purchase roads, which cost 10, you can put roads between provinces that have, between adjacent provinces that have a city. So I could buy 2 roads and put one there to connect those 2 provinces and then one here. Then during movement, it only costs 1 movement to move from one city to another connected city via road. So for 1 movement, I could move, these guys all the way to this city, and that would only be 1 movement point because they're all connected via roads. Now, if this city was ever destroyed or this city was ever destroyed, then you have to remove the road because they're no longer connected. So you can't have, I couldn't have this city gone and still have roads connecting this to that city. You always have to have cities in each province that the roads connect. So, but if you get a good chain of cities going a long way, that really helps movement. For 1 movement point, you can move all the way, across several provinces. So that's what roads are. And that's pretty much what you do on a turn. You got movement, then combat if you're in a province or a sea space with another galley. Then you collect your tribute. But one thing we didn't talk about is inflation. So once a player's tribute, once they own enough provinces where their tribute has crossed into this silver area on the tribute track, at the beginning of their next turn, after they've crossed into this area, where you're going to have inflation. And at that point, the cost of all units doubles. So instead of an infantry costing 10, it's going to cost 20. Instead of a cavalry costing 20, it's going to cost 40. And if somebody gets their tribute up into this gold, then once they've reached this point at the beginning of their next turn, so once somebody reaches one of these inflation points, everybody will at least have 1 additional buy turn where they can buy at the previous price. But after that, at the beginning of that player's next turn, inflation takes place. So if somebody reaches this gold tribute track area, then prices are tripled. So stuff's really expensive then. So you need to buy most of your stuff when you're down here in the normal price range. But that's it. So, the blue player would do his movement, combat, collect tribute, destroy cities, purchase new pieces, and place new pieces. Then the Egyptus player would do the same thing. Then the red player, and keep doing that until somebody has destroyed both, in my case, a 3-player game, but one player has to defeat the Caesar of all the other players, and then they win the classic conquest of the empire. So remember, your Caesar, if he's ever in a battle and he loses the battle that he's in and he's captured, then you lose. It doesn't matter how many pieces you have on the board, how many cities you own. If your Caesar is ever defeated and captured, then you lose. And then the victor of that battle that your Caesar was defeated in, it says he gains the ownership of all your money, your pieces, your markers, and units, and then move the victor's tribute scale to reflect, the gain of all his opponent's territories and whatnot. Now, what I was not sure about, I don't know then, because you've captured and the victor then controls all your units. I didn't know if he could then build additional, like if Blue defeated the Red Caesar, and he gets all his territories, all his units. I'm not sure if he can then build additional red units as well as blue units. That part I wasn't clear on, or if he only got to control the existing red units. So if you watch this video and you know the answer to that, please put that in the comments. But that's it. I'll show a couple of turns when I've got the board a little more filled out, just to show how that works. And that's it. All right, so now I've skipped ahead quite a few turns just so we could get kind of see what it looks like after we're quite a bit into the game, and maybe see how some combat works. So it's the blue player's turn, and he's in his movement sequence of his turn. So he can, this city, or this area here is lightly defended, but it does have a fortified city, and he doesn't have much of a force here. Here he's down here in Neapolis, and he wants to take Italia. Looks kind of like an even battle there, and there's both have good forces, so let's do that. So well, he has to have a leader to move there, and he does not, so I need to get a leader over there. So he does have this leader or general down here in Sicilia. So since the generals or leaders get 2 movement points, he's going to use 1 to move back here into Neapolis, and then he's going to form a legion with these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys, and he's going to move all of them up here into Italia. So let's just do that. Alright, and I don't think he's going to do any other movement, so that's going to be the end of his movement phase. So now we go into the combat phase. So we'll create our battle legions, and they can be between 1 to 5, as we've talked about, and then +1 for each general or leader. But I've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, and he's only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anyway, but he does get 2 bonus dice for the fortified city. So the attacker goes first. So I will get 5 dice, as I've mentioned. So I'll get my little castle ruin dice tray here, and I get 5 dice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then remember, I got to roll. The only units I have are infantry and cavalry, so I need to roll infantry or cavalry for hits. I got an infantry. That's a catapult, which I don't have. There's another infantry, so those match up with my 2 infantry. That's another catapult, which I don't have, and another catapult. So I just got 2 hits. I can match up both infantry with the 2 infantry that I have. So he's got to knock down 2 guys to show that he's been hit twice. Now he still gets to roll for all of his characters, so he gets, as I said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 2 for his fortified city, so 7. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then, alright, so he's got 1 cavalry, so he can match that die for a hit. He doesn't have another cavalry, so this one's no good to him. He does have an infantry, so he can match that one with 1 infantry. He has another infantry, he can match that one. He does have 1 catapult, so he can match that one. And he does have a 3rd infantry, so he can match that one. And then this ship, he doesn't have a ship. But he does get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hits, which is going to take out the entire force of blue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then he just loses his 2 red. And now, because the only person left is that general, he's captured by the red player. So the red player can just put him over here. He actually has another one captured. So he won that battle. This guy obviously lost. Didn't go very well at all for the blue player. Thought I might get to show a retreat or something like that, but no. Alright, and blue didn't move anywhere else. So there's no other battles that take place. He could destroy the city. Now when I moved out of here, I should have put a marker to show that I still own that territory. But now I'm in the phase where I could destroy this city because I think they may be able to move down here and just take that. So if I don't want them to do that and I don't want them to have that city, I can just destroy it. So I'm trying to decide, do I want to do that? They don't have a leader, but he could move one over there and come down there and take it on his turn. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and destroy that city. But I do have to move my marker down to show that I'm losing the 5 points for that city. And if I had any roads that were connected to that city, they would get destroyed also, but I don't. So now we go on to the I should have done the collect tribute before I destroyed the city. So tribute, I get 70, so let me get that. So there's my 70 talons that I got, that blue player got in tribute. Then we did the destroy cities phase. So now we're in the purchase new pieces phase. Now you may notice that I talked about this earlier, but we have reached the first inflation phase. So all prices are double. So now infantry costs 20, cavalry costs 40, galleys cost 40, catapult costs 60. Fortified city costs 100. Just a regular city costs 60. Road costs, so all prices are doubled at this point because we've reached the first inflation phase. And once somebody gets up here, as we mentioned earlier, we would be in the second inflation phase and prices are then tripled. So even though I got 70 towns here, it's not really worth a lot. So let's say I'm going to buy, that would give me an infantry, 2 infantry. Well, I guess just 3 infantry is about all I can afford. So let me get that. Alright, I got my 3 infantry, and of course they have to go in your home territory. Probably should have moved some of those out earlier. And in the place pieces phase, that's when you can bargain to try to get your captured generals back. But I don't really have but 10 talons to offer, and I'll say red player, he doesn't want to give up my leaders for a mere 10 talons. Alright, well that brings us to purple's turn, the Egyptus. He's kind of spread out. He owns all of this area, but he's kind of thin. His population is pretty thin in most places, except over here where it looks like he may be getting ready to get in a pretty good battle. But what I can show is you'll see he's got roads built all along here. And remember, it only takes one movement to move all along anywhere where you have roads. So he can take his leader here, and he's going to take this cavalry, this guy, and this guy. And for one movement, he can move all the way over to here because of the roads. Now, they can't move again. Those troops can't move again. They've done one movement. The general could move again. Since those units only have one movement, they can only move to here. So I can't move in here and make an attack, but I'm set up pretty good for attacking red on my next turn. And let's see if I want to do anything else. These guys might want to move. So let's do that. I have a leader up here, and for one movement he can move here. Then he still has one movement left. So if we want to get Sicilia and get another 5 money here, we'll do that. So he's going to form a legion with, we'll say, these 3 guys. So he's going to move. He gets his second movement, and their first and only movement is to there. But now they've taken over this area, so he gets to go up another 5 to 115. I think that's all the movement he's going to do. So we didn't get into combat with him. So now he gets to collect his tribute. So he gets 115 tribute, which I've got here, 115. So now he's got to decide if he wanted to destroy any cities, and he doesn't because he's in a strong position, he thinks. So now he just wants to spend his money. So let me see what I want to spend that on, and I'll come back. Alright, so purple bought 2 cavalry and an infantry. And so that added up to 100 talons, and he just put what he's got left over here. And that's the end of his turn. He doesn't have any leaders or generals captured to bargain for. So finally we come to the red player in his movement phase. And I think we'll do a battle here just to see how that works. So let me scoot these guys back so I have room for red to move in here. Now remember, he can only move with up to 7 troops. So here's his leader. He's going to move in with 1. Or his leader doesn't count, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, he could come with Caesar too. So he would have another leader to add another troop to his battle. But remember, if your Caesar dies, you're done. So I think this is all we're going to do. So let's form our battle legions. And remember, you can have can have 5 units plus 1 per leader or general you have. So I've got 1, 2. So this guy's gonna do, so I can have up to 7. So I'm gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And let's put all these other guys in reserve. Now remember the catapults, they can still hit even if they're in reserve. So that's kind of the reason I kept them back in the reserve and didn't put them in the initial combat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 5 you're allowed plus 1 for each general. And this guy can have 6 because he's got 1 general. So he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll put his catapult in reserve. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plus his catapult in reserve. And the red's the attacker, so he gets to roll first. So he's rolling 6 dice. Well, here's his 6 dice. Okay, well that is a ship, so that's no good to us. That is a ship, so that's no good to us. This is a catapult, so that is going to be a hit, because even though my catapult's in reserve, it counts as a hit. And then hit for an infantry, hit for an infantry, and a hit for an infantry. I have 4 infantry, so those 3 are each a hit, plus the 1 for the catapult. So that's going to be 4 hits. So he's got to knock over 4 guys. He's going to count as dead. So I'll do 1, 2, 3, 4. But now he gets to roll 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Plus he can hit with his catapult. So there's 5, 6, 7. So let's roll his. Alright. That is a ship, so that's no good. That's a blank, so that's no good. That's a cavalry. He does have 3 cavalry, so that's 1 hit. Infantry, he does have infantry in there, so that's another hit. Another cavalry, which that's good because he has 3. Another ship, so that's no good. But another infantry. So he gets 4 hits. So I'm going to remove, red's going to remove 1, 2, 3, 4. And now purple's got to remove these guys he knocked over. And now, purple being the defender would decide if he wants to retreat. Or if not, he can move the units he has in reserve up here to take place in the battle, and then red decides he wants to retreat, which he does. So he's going to go ahead and he can retreat back to an area that's adjacent and doesn't have enemy units. But before these guys can retreat, they have to survive pursuit. So the purple player gets to roll 1 combat dice for each land combat unit he has, and then for each cavalry symbol that he rolls that he can match to a cavalry that he has, and that's for his entire surviving force, so even the ones he had in reserve. So 2 cavalry, if he can match those, if he gets 2 cavalry rolls, then he gets to still destroy units before they're allowed to flee. And you get to roll for each combat unit you have. So he gets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Is that right? No, this is a leader. Oops. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So he gets to roll 7, which is what he got to roll before. And cavalry will. He got 1, 2, which is all he got 2 cavalry, which is all he has. So even if he had gotten additional cavalry, that wouldn't count. But he gets to destroy 2 surviving units here, and he gets to choose them. So he's going to choose the catapult and this infantry. So the only 2 that actually get to escape are the general and the 1 infantry. And I got to throw these dead guys in the bag. Oops, that guy's not dead. Where did this guy? I don't remember where this guy came from. Anyway, so that's an example of combat. And let me take care of those dead guys. So that's an example of combat and retreat. There's nobody lost or gained any territory, so there's no change on the tribute. I don't know where this guy came from. I keep finding pieces all over. I'll just say he was in here. These guys are in here. So now we go to the collect tribute phase. Red gets 95, and then he will spend it on forces, and then back to the blue player. So I think we've pretty much showed everything, how movement works, how combat works, collecting tribute, destroying cities, purchasing new pieces, placing new pieces. So that's how the game goes, and you just keep playing until one player has wiped out all the other players, and then they win the game. One thing I didn't show is movement on ships and how that works, but basically a ship can move. It has 2 movement. One of its movement can be to move into a province. It's basically on the shore there. So units for 1 movement with a leader can move onto a ship, and then a ship can use its movement, 1 movement to move out to sea, and then it could use its second movement, like to move onto this island here. And then because the units that moved onto that ship already used their movement, they couldn't then move off, but on their next turn, they could then move off and move on to that island. And then a ship can move even if it doesn't have units, and if it moves into a space with another ship, it can initiate battle. It doesn't have to. Like army units, when they move into an territory with enemy units, they have to stop. But a ship doesn't have to stop. It could just keep moving if it had more movement. But if it wants to stop in battle, it can. And then you roll dice just like in a regular combat, just for your ships. And if you roll a ship, then that's a hit. And if a ship is destroyed that's transporting units, then they're destroyed. And I think I mentioned all that earlier, but I don't think I showed an example of any of that, so I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. Overall, this is okay, but just not a lot to it. I guess that's why they did made the version, the Conquest of the Empires 2 version, since this one is move, fight, buy more units, move, fight, buy more units. So it's okay. I think it would be better with more players. With just 3 players, it took a while to get units moved around the board to where I actually started having combat. But if you were playing with 4, 5, 4 or 5, or it can play up to 6 players. 6, 5 or 6. I don't know. That may be a little crowded. I'm not sure. But I think with 4, for sure, that might make it a little better. But um, I think it might be okay. Um, I do want to go ahead and try the Conquest of Empires 2 version with all the additional rules. Uh, and I mentioned I did play that version about 7 years ago, and I don't really remember too much what I thought about it. Seemed like the roads in the cities were not involved in that. But anyway, I think I'll do a separate video on that so you can see the differences if you end up watching that. But that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks again for watching.